Okay, so today's video is a list video, I guess you could say, and it'll be things that I hate in books. And I mainly read romance, and like contemporary type books, and maybe a little bit of fantasy. Hello, we have a guest. We've got a guest, and she's very happy. She's a happy guest. Okay, you just wanted to sit in my lap? That's fine. That's okay. Okay, get comfortable. Don't worry about me. Just get comfortable. Today we're doing a list of things I hate in books, and like I said, I mainly read romance, kind of fantasy but not much, contemporary type books, just like real life plus a bit of fantasy, so not real life. So things I hate in books: pick me girl main characters. If she's a bit of a pick me, if she's quite like sexist, like internalized misogyny a little bit, not my vibe. If she's constantly chatting about other girls, like, oh my god, this girl dresses like a or like, I don't really like what this girl, like, oh my god, this girl sleeps around, oh my god, like, she's so, she does everything for male attention. And mainly when she does it for male attention, like, if she's doing that to impress the main love interest, irritates me to no end. I think it's one of the worst traits in books, and it's in a lot of books that I really enjoy, but it always takes me out a little bit. I'm like, I wish you weren't like this, because I want to like the main character, and obviously I want to like identify with her, and like, but it's just so annoying when she's just like, oh my god, just these girls, they're so unlike me, I like to sit in my room and read books. And it's like, yeah, some people like to sit at home and read books and some people don't. Like, can you just stop on people for no reason? Can you stop on the woman for no reason? Anyway, the next one is people on covers of books, but mainly naked men. The Vicious and the Pretty Reckless series is notorious for that. It's just like half naked men on the cover, and like, as much as I'm not embarrassed of liking romance or reading romance books, and I do read romance just out in public whenever I feel like it, I do prefer if it's not just like a half naked man on the cover, because then I feel like I'm not going to take this book outside my house, because it looks like I'm reading like porn. Just straight porn. Like, yeah, smut is one thing, smutty books another thing, but if it's like so blatantly obvious from my cover what I'm reading, that's when I have a problem. So I do prefer when the cover is like drawn, like not animated, like, do you know what I mean, like when it's like this and not like this. This is my ideal romance cover, like it's so happy and like it still gets the vibes going, and this, it just makes me want to die. I hate this. I hate this. And I'll have less of an irk when it's women on the cover, because I feel like it's always less like half naked. So actually with the off-campus series, there are two different editions. There's this one and there's this one. I actually end up buying this one with the girls on them because I think it's less icky. Icky is the word I was looking for. I hate when, and this started kind of on Wattpad and it transferred into some like indie books, I'm guessing. And so people in strong detail describe how someone looks or what they're wearing, mainly because I feel like those things can become very outdated. Like, you know, like it just gets very cringy, and like you kind of start to imagine the outfit and you're like starting to judge the outfit because you're like, it doesn't look good, so why are we describing it? Or just describing things in really strong detail that I could have just imagined myself. Like, I understand, for example, I don't mind world building, like I want to know exactly what the setting looks like, but I don't really need to know what the characters look like. I think that can be kept not vague, but just quite like down to my imagination. I want to use my imagination a little bit. Also, I don't want to be boxed in to being like, this is what this character looks like, unless the look of the person is important to the plot, obviously. So like, if, I don't know, the person being tall is somehow linked to the plot, or if the whatever it is, like, unless that physical trait is important to moving the plot along or just being part of the plot, then sure, it's okay. It doesn't put me off the book, but I just kind of, sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish it was just kept a little bit more vague. Don't tell me that she's wearing a blue sweater with baubles on it, or bows, or blue socks with jeans and a skirt and a top and a crop top and a little cardigan, because I'm like, I just don't really need to know. Like, I just don't care. I think this less links to like actual physical attributes and more like outfits and things like that. Like, I think once you get like really delving into what this character looks like, it starts to really put me off. A main character that is like embarrassing, if she says really embarrassing things for no reason, or constantly like falls over and does things that are like, oh, like, I'm just like, just, I'm so clumsy, and then it's so Wattpad, it's so like YN, like YN falls over in front of her, you know, crush, and he picks up her tray of food and he thinks she's so like quirky and cute, and like she's so clumsy, and I'm just like, it's just like the typical like making women look like damsels in distress, even in modern day romance, like making them look like they're just constantly falling over and she like just needs help all the time. Like, it's just not my favorite thing in the world. Obviously when it happens I'm like, whatever, like it happened, but it is not a trait in a book that I'm like, wow, I really look forward to her falling over and embarrassing herself in front of her crush. That is so cute. I hate just misogyny for no reason. Like, I feel like I already talked about the main character being like a pick-me, but then when everyone else is like misogynistic for no reason and it never has any consequences, and they're just like throwing these like misogynistic phrases around, and like they're just being it just takes me out the story so much. Like, when I understand flawed characters, I'm fully well aware of flawed characters, but this almost just isn't a flaw, it's almost just like a personality. Like, I hate when misogyny is just a part of the plot, as in like it is just a personality trait that someone has rather than a flaw that someone has. So like presenting things as just like, this is just what this person is like, that's what they're like, versus this is a flawed person that does very flawed things. They're two different, like, you can tell the vibe is different in the book between these two different like plot devices. If it's just a part of someone's personality and nothing is ever done about it, that's going to give me the ick. But if it is a flaw that a person has that they then get called out for or have to work on, great. If it's just like a thing, just like misogyny in the book, many of the books are written by women, I'm like, what happened? Why did this happen? Characters that all sound the same when they're being written. So for example, if a book is dual point of view or multiple points of views, I've had this before where this happened, where you're reading a dual point of view or a multiple point of view book and every single character sounds the same. Like, they're written in the same way, they speak the same way, they describe things the same way, they narrate things the same way. So technically it is like, yeah, it's the same author writing 4 characters, but they can't write 4 different voices, so they all have the same voice. And then you're reading the chapter, and in the middle of the chapter you're confused about whose chapter you're reading, so you have to go back to like the main page of the chapter and like figure out. Sometimes it'll be written like, this is this person's chapter, so you go back and you're like, oh, I'm reading from this chapter's point, this character's point of view. I hate it. If you can't, and this is a very harsh critique, if you can't write multiple different characters that sound different, please just write your book from one point of view. Please. Spare me the confusion. Spare me the confusion, please. Because then they're having dialogue and I'm thinking that the wrong person is saying the wrong thing because I can't figure out whose chapter this is. I also hate books that are written as a 22-year-old. I feel like I accept things less than maybe a younger crowd. So for example, teacher student, not my thing. I think professor student is fine because they're all adults. So I know the Love Hypothesis is a master's student and a professor, and it's like fake dating and they're pretty close in age, so I think that's perfectly fine. I'm probably going to read the Love Hypothesis, I'm probably going to enjoy it. Student teacher, so like Aria from Pretty Little Liars. You guys remind me that was originally a book, so it does count as like a book reference. That just makes zero sense to me. Please, it's disgusting, it's grooming, it's predatory, it's exploitative. No. And that also then links me to a different point of just like reading about underage characters. Not my favorite thing, because I'm a 22-year-old, so reading about like 16-year-olds having sex is actually not on my agenda. So for example, Punk 57 was a great book, but the whole time I was reading about it, I had to almost imagine that these characters are like at uni and they're like 19, because they're in high school. They're in high school, so they're like 17, 16, and it just irked me, like reading about these characters having sex and like just the whole thing. I was like, this feels like it's for a younger crowd. Like when I was 15, 16, I would have loved and eaten up the fact that these characters are like my age, but now as a 22-year-old, I'm like, can we not? And of course, books for teenagers have to exist. Like it's not like I'm demanding that these books have older characters, because younger characters, like me as a 15-year-old, I would have loved that book. But me as a 22-year-old just have to be careful about what books I pick up, because sometimes I can feel a bit uncomfortable almost reading the books. So the same thing applies for Anna and the French Kiss, one of my favorite books of all time, but it is a high school book. So yeah, but it's not smutty, so that almost adds a bit of like, oh, it's fine. But Punk 57 definitely was just not it. So for example, I love books like the Off-Campus series where they're all at university. It'll be like year 1, year 2, year 3 of uni. After series is straight out of high school but going into university. It's still young enough to be okay for high schoolers to read, but it is old enough for me to not feel icky reading it, and like borderline like I'm feeling like I'm committing a crime here. I feel like Colleen Hoover writes pretty adult books, so they'll be like young but they're like adults a lot of the time. I mean, most of Colleen Hoover's books are adult. I like Emily Henry's books because they're all about mid like 20s people. But yeah, just reading books about high schoolers doing sexual activities is probably not on my agenda these days. So that's kind of what I hate in books, like just picking up a book and expecting like a different age range. And that's on me for not doing the research. I should have looked up how old these people are. But picking up a book, starting to read it, and they're like, day 1 of high school. And I'm like, high school? I thought I was reading adult. Obviously it's not like a big deal if you read books about high schoolers, I still read. Like I read Punk 57, I read Anna and the French Kiss. I will still continue to read these books, but there is an element of me that feels uncomfortable reading them. I hate pregnancy in books. It's not my thing. And I just started Colleen Hoover. What is it called? So I actually got Kindle Unlimited, and I ended up looking through my like Apple Books situation. I'm starting to do more because I'm always so like, oh, I like a physical book, but sometimes it's just not convenient to bring a physical book with you everywhere you go, because if you have a small handbag and you just want to read in the Uber somewhere, like, you're not going to bring a book and you have nowhere to put it, you know. So I'm starting to get more into like accepting reading like on my phone, on my iPad, etc. And also when I go on holiday, I hate bringing my books because then I destroy them, obviously in a suitcase or in my bag. So I want to get more into reading some of my books digitally instead of physically, and then still having a physical collection of books that are not destroyed by travel. So I'm reading Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover because it's on Kindle Unlimited. So if you guys are wondering, both Heartbones and Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover are both on Kindle Unlimited, and right now there's an off on Kindle Unlimited where you get 2 months free instead of 1. So it's like a 2-month trial instead of 1 month trial, and then after that you obviously start paying your thingy. So if in 2 months, obviously you can just get the 2-month trial, read as many books as you can from Kindle Unlimited, because you can borrow 10 books at a time, but then there's no limit to how many books you can read a month. So you could literally, if you can read 50 books a month, then you'll read 100 books by the end of your Kindle Unlimited trial, and then you can just cancel the trial if you want, or you can continue it. Do whatever you want. But yeah, so I'm gonna read some books on the Kindle Unlimited thing, and then I'll see if I want to keep it at the end of the 2 months. But I also have my Apple Books thing, and they have some sales on there, which I thought was quite interesting. I never realized. So I bought Emily Henry's Book Lovers for like $1.99, and I already have Beach Read and You and Me on Vacation, which is also called People We Meet on Vacation in America, but it's You and Me on Vacation in the UK, and maybe somewhere else. So I'm reading Beach Read. I still need to read You and Me on Vacation, and I obviously needed Book Lovers, which is like her third most recent launch, and it cost me $1.99 on Apple Books. I'm gonna read it on my iPad or on my phone or wherever I want to read it when I'm out and about, instead of spending, you know, £10 on it. Probably it's a good deal. Anyway, pregnancy. Why did I get into that? Oh, because I've been reading Colleen Hoover, Reminders of Him, it's called. Yes, Reminders of Him. And initially reading it, the first chapter, so I'm not even spoiling anything, the first chapter is like 2 seconds long, and is about this woman that has committed a crime in the past, and she had a child that she gave birth to while she was serving time for the crime that she has committed. This is literally all in the first chapter. I'm not reading anything for you guys. I haven't even read the second chapter. I literally just read the first chapter to see if I liked the book, and then I stopped reading after the first chapter, and it was like 5 pages long. So she was in a car accident. Someone died. She is serving time for it. She was pregnant, and she gave birth while in the jail cell, right? While she was serving time. And this child then went obviously off to a different family, and now she's back in this town to look for this child. And immediately I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like family drama, like she gave birth and pregnancy. And I think I just dislike reading about pregnancy so much in regular romance novels that it's just put me off everything. But this book is apparently amazing, and obviously it's not about just like a baby being born. It's about like this child is already grown up and is like older, so like this should be a fun, like this should be quite like fun family drama and stuff. But so I think this will be okay. But immediately I just got like, oh, like this feeling of like, oh, I'm not gonna like it. But it's not like the typical like they meet, they fall in love, and oh, I'm pregnant. Like I hate that. But this is probably gonna be okay. This is probably gonna be fine. I hate long chapters. This one was great. This chapter was literally like 5 pages. I hate long chapters because it just doesn't motivate me to read, because sometimes I don't know if I have enough time to finish the chapter, and I don't like not finishing chapters. I'm one of those people where like I have to finish a chapter before I close the book, and if I don't, I'll be very disappointed and very angry. So I need short chapters so that I have like a lot of flexibility about when I want to finish reading the book, versus like, oh my god, I still have like half an hour of reading to do before I finish this chapter. So I love short chapters, hate long chapters, obviously. Miscommunication. I said this in my tier ranking of tropes. I hate miscommunication. I hate when it lasts too long. Like, of course, there's going to be some miscommunication, but don't make it last 10 chapters where these people are just like not talking for months or years because they just don't want to communicate and like figure out issues. That is just the most childish, immature thing. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Oh, I hate, you know, the like when you finish a romance novel and at the end there'll be a little epilogue and it'll be like literally a paragraph being like, and then 5 years later they got married, had 5 kids and had jobs. And like, why? Either make that like an actual chapter in the book and put some detail into it, put some work into it, or just don't include it. Leave the book as what it is, because I feel like it's such a cheap attempt at like concluding everything without actually having to put any effort into thinking of like something interesting to happen, right? Like, I hate little short epilogues. It doesn't make sense to me. I also hate when a series comes out and then like years later they'll do like a prologue, which is just like a little book before everything happened, and then it like changes everything that you already thought about the series as you ended it. Like, let's say you finished your book and then 10 years later a prologue comes in that then talks about these characters in a way that makes you change your mind on the whole thing. I think most of the time it's not done very well, and it kind of ruins the legacy and like the memories that you have of this book, because it now changes everything about these characters, because like, oh, this one had like an upbringing and this one had something, and not for me. Just leave the series, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Another thing I hate about books is authors that do problematic things and then ruin books for us. And I know there's really nothing I can do about that. Like, there'll be authors that I love their books, but they are just awful people, and I'm just like, you've just destroyed something amazing that so many people have enjoyed through your actions. I hope you enjoy that. Anyway, those are things I hate in books / just like book reading / just like book reading culture. Like, I just hate these things, and this was a very negative video, but that's fine. That's the kind of person I am, negative. Subscribe to the bell, like, comment for engagement. I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.